strategize and plot. Buy back your block, real estate and stocks. Stack what you got, hold down your spot. Strike while you hot and think the man up top. Conspiracy or not, strategize and plot. Buy back your block, real estate and stocks. Stack what you got, hold down your spot. Strike while you hot and think the man up top. Conspiracy or not, strategize and plot. Buy back your block, real estate and stocks. Stack what you got, hold down your spot. Strike while you hot and think the man up top. Conspiracy or not, strategize and plot. Buy back your block, real estate and stocks. Stack what you got, hold down your spot. Strike while you hot and think the man up top. Conspiracy or not, strategize and plot.
Listen, man, there's gonna be times when you're all by yourself. It's gonna be times where you can't talk to anybody. It's gonna be times where people can't even comprehend the things that you're thinking about and the things that are on your mind. And it's those times that you need to be tapped in with your purpose. It's those times where your relationship with God is gonna pull you through. See, your purpose is God's original instruction in your life. It is a thing that you are called to do no matter what path you take. It is something that is connected to you and is your value to the world. And in them times where you all alone, in them times where you by yourself, in those times where no one can comprehend your thought, that's the only thing you're gonna have. Your original instruction. The thing that God called you to do. And even in the midst of your failure, that thing is gonna be calling you. When I was at my lowest point, when I didn't have any money, I didn't have any clients, I didn't have any prospects of success, I had this calling. I had this thing telling me to push forward because I knew my value even before the world knew. I knew what I was capable of even though I wasn't getting the results, even though nobody could see it. I knew it in my mind because I was connected to my original instruction. I was connected to my purpose. I was connected to what God called me to do. It had nothing to do with a job title. It had nothing to do with the income or the money that was in my pocket. It had to do with the value that God gave me, and He told me to give it to the world. And so even when I wasn't seeing the results, the calling was there. Your purpose is not your profession. Your purpose is not your paycheck. Your purpose is not your business. Your purpose is an original instruction. God called you to do something. He called you to lead. He called you to teach. He called you to protect. He called you to build. He called you to nurture. He called you to do something. He didn't give it to anybody else in the way that He gave it to you. And so it is your responsibility to take that calling, to take that instruction and maximize its value on the world. That's why we're here, to execute our purpose. That's it. But when we're not tapped into that, that's when we feel unfulfilled. That's when we feel depressed. That's when the failure doesn't make any sense. See, when you're failing, but you're connected to your purpose, the failure has meaning because you know that it's getting you closer to the finish line. But when you're failing at life and you don't even know who you are, you don't even know your purpose, that's demoralizing because it doesn't mean anything, right? You feel like it's you. And so in order for that failure to have meaning, you have to be connected and tied to your purpose. And you can't substitute money with purpose. You can't substitute resources with purpose. There are so many people that are unfulfilled, that are unhappy, that are depressed, that are worth millions of dollars. Because when you obtain the resources, when you get the riches, and it's not connected to your purpose, it's not connected to your original instruction, you're not going to be fulfilled. It's people right now sitting in a mansion with all the money in the world, and they are unfulfilled because they acquired it, but it wasn't connected to their original instruction. It wasn't connected to their purpose. It's not what God called them to do. They may have had a talent to do it, right? They may have figured out a way to make money, but money is not your purpose. And so if you are not executing the value that God gave you to the world in the right way, no amount of money is going to justify that. Stop focusing on money. Money can't fix our problems. Money can't fix our circumstances. As a matter of fact, as I look at everything that's going on, money is the least of our problems. We have $1.5 trillion of spending power in our community. You know what we don't have collectively? Love. We're more divided than we've ever been. We're more divisive than we've ever been. Our families and our households are as broken as they have ever been. And we all just in a pursuit to get to the bag. But money cannot change our circumstances. And at the risk of sounding corny, at the risk of sounding patronizing, our community needs love. We are an unhealed community. We have generations of trauma, of despair, of heartache, of broken families. And we are an unhealed culture. And no amount of money is going to fix those types of problems. The things that are at the root of our issues have nothing to do with finances. Now, finances is how those problems expose themselves with our spending habits, with the things that we prioritize, with the mindset of consumerism. All those things are indicators that there is a deeper problem, but nobody's talking about the problem. We need to be healed. We are at conflict with one another constantly. A lot of us don't even know our bloodline past our grandparents. We don't even really know who we are. We see our melanin, we see our skin tone, we see the relation culturally that we have to one another, but we don't even really know who we are. And so because of that, there's a certain amount of healing that it is going to take for us to repair the issues in our community. And that does not start with money. It starts with love. Because when you start with love, you don't judge. See, right now we judging everybody. Everybody's in pain. Everybody's is hurting. So now everybody's out for self. And so when we see something different, we see somebody that doesn't fit, we see people that make mistakes, we jump in and judge them. Instead of loving them, instead of greeting them with open arms, and instead of trying to figure out a way to fix them and fix the circumstances. And I didn't even know that my message was going to take it in this direction. But I'm an aggressive person by nature, right? I communicate aggressively. I like to get my point across in a way that people understand. So it's very hard for me to defer. It's very hard for me to fall back. It's very hard for me to be compassionate, especially when it comes to business. But the fact of the matter is, the missing element in our community is love. Everything is transactional. Everything is about a trade, a quid pro quo. And we all expect something for our time, our efforts, and our energy. And that's a problem because now we don't have a community. Now we just a bunch of business partners. We just transactional. We all using one another, right? And you can't have a community built on that because there's no sense of the greater good. Everybody's out for self. Everybody's about what's good for me. And how can we change our circumstances if all I'm thinking about is me? And so my plea to our so-called leaders, to the people who are trying to do things in the community, to the people that are trying to or have the same passion that I have, right? For us to reach our potential as a community. My plea is that we don't start with attacking or addressing the problems. My plea is that we start with love. We start reaching out to one another. We start talking to one another, even in conflict, even in disagreement, to be able to do that with love, right? Because they did a number on us, I'm not gonna lie. They did a number on us, period. We think we know the history. But when you understand psychological warfare, right? When you understand the resources of the federal government and how they were used to destroy our community, they did a number on us. But at the end of the day, even if it's not your fault, it's your responsibility. Even if something is not your fault, it is still your responsibility. A lot of the things that have been done to us are not our fault. A lot of the conditions in our community were calculated and curated to create our environment, to create the system. But even if it's not your fault, at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. You have to make a choice. When you are ignorant, that choice is forgiven. But when you know better, you got to make the right choice. Regardless of the temptation, regardless of the manipulation, you have to make the decision. You got to make it. And so while, yes, things have been done to our community, from COINTELPRO to Iran-Contra, to the crack epidemic, to the crime bill, to the manipulation of our music, to propaganda, right? So many things that are documented, not even conspiracies, are documented. But even if it's not your fault, it's still your responsibility. The only way we change is to change our mindset. To consciously turn on our focus to those things, to the environment that was created, and make conscious decisions to the alternative. There's nothing stopping us at this point except for ourselves. If there is no enemy within, the enemy without can do us no harm. This is our enemy right now. We still approaching relationships with one another with conflict. We still don't trust one another when we interact. We still treat each other like transactions. We still refuse to give one another grace. Those are things that we have to consciously change. And it starts with the wealth mindset.